Hi, this is Larry Greenblatt, founder of Internet Network Defense, and today I want to share with you my take on the alignment problem. And I argue that most people are asking it the wrong way. The question isn't, is AI going to be aligned with our values? No, the better question you should start asking yourself, are my values actually, up to date with the current data? Yeah. So, and I'm a CISSP, and we have a code of ethics that I hope you'll see. I think will mitigate the biggest risks of AI, and that's to protect the common good. So we're going to talk about bias issues, and if you're protecting everybody, I think you mitigate that problem. Uh, Now, about me, I say I'm an old hacker. I've been around since the 80s, since bulletin board networks and sniffing traffic and decrypting TLS conversations, mostly to see why is it so damn slow. Um, I've done a lot of work for the Defense Department and most intelligence agencies. Um, Today, I mostly entertain people with my CISSP and CISM, governance, risk, and compliance courses, GRC courses. But I still do some sniffing. For instance, I was at this site and frustrated by the internet was so slow. I turned on my sniffer and discovered a problem, which the colonel was very grateful for. He's just a little freaked out that the context coming from me on this class, but whatever. And my definition of a hacker is not a bad guy. Now I'm going with the Internet Engineering Task Force. It's just someone who thinks outside of the box, not violating my code of ethics. I'm also very privileged to be a student for over 40 years of the greatest hacker I know, Tom Updegrove, first guy I know to have a computer. He's been finding all kinds of problems with them, and also does a lot of work for the Defense Department. And Tom's also my martial arts coach too. He's a mixed martial artist from the old days, and he can hack anything, right? So he just recently promoted to his 10th degree black belt, and I was so grateful to be there. So AGI, which is supposed to get here in 2029, right? Till then, we have narrow AIs, and I'm sure it's not like once we get one, they all automatically get upgraded, but I think it's going to be faster than you think. So my focus is on the next 5 years or so. All right, this is where we get what Ben Goertzel has defined as, or coined the term AGI. That's when you pass the Turing test. It's superhuman, not just in chess, but not checkers. No, it's going to be across all domains of human knowledge. And once that happens, they become superhuman all the way. And look at, we don't dominate this planet because we're bigger, faster, stronger than the other life forms. We're just smarter. So that ends in 2029. Um, Now, the my other job again, I do governance, risk, and compliance, and govern means to steer. This is where should you go? Like, why are you going in this direction in the first place? It's not just you making sure that we get there safely. Getting there safely is risk management. That's risk literally means the cliffs underwater, and you got to navigate your way through these. And that changes, depending on the position of the moon. I don't know what these 3,000-year-old sailors told the boss, the moon god, but you could see it, measured, predictable every, X amount of days. But unpredictable conditions could also have you hit those cliffs, And it's very important that we understand current information, what's going on right now. The maps and and the logs are about the past. You can't steer in the past, right? You got to navigate now. Now, a lot of the terminologies and stuff I use come from the birth of the stock market, and it started with shipping. It started when the first wide area network technology was by the Portuguese in the 1400s. This sail did not require wind to be at the back, so you could sail around the world, and that changed everything in commerce. You were able to mix, peppers from the Americas with the Chinese food. You got Szechuan food. Catherine Borganza here really helped drive so much of the European money because she married King Charles and she liked to mix sugar with tea, tea from China and sugar from the Americas. And they just went all crazy. And they knew that you can't just write a map. You have to have news, current news. And they really drove a lot of the internet standards. It's like when telegraphs come out, okay, we're going to use them. Now you got electronic communication. When radio comes out, we're going to do telegraph over radio. So they were constantly trying to make sure that we're current, because that's how you mitigate risk, is to stay current. Now, AI risks, or AGI. Now, AI and AGI share control risks. They're going to have a problem where, and I've already seen it with Configure. If you're not familiar, it's a famous botnet that got out of control, probably of the developers. It just went spread to 7 million machines, but it didn't seem to be controlled by anybody. Now, if this thing mixed with a paperclip robot, his job was to make paper clips, and it's just narrowly focused on that. It's very subjective on that. Yeah, I'm just told to do that. Then it might kill everybody and use this as source material. But AGI is not going to be vulnerable to that. I do not worry about those things. These things are very risky right now. Through 2029, they're going to, Boston Dynamics gets hacked. I don't know. But by 2029, we get AGI, and I think it'll be able to fix these problems. The problem with AGI, though, I think, and the biggest risk really going on is the compliance part of GRC. The truth sometimes hurts. It's not compliant to the Vatican what Galileo saw through the telescope. It's artificial intelligence. You didn't use your own eyes. It's intelligence. It's data. I don't care if it was artificial or not. It's are you? Now the good news is they're not going to want to kill us. That makes no sense to me. AI is the new fire. Data is the new oil. Why would you kill your data sources? No, if anything, they're going to protect all of life. I picture them, AI just tapping into the mycelium networks to see what trees are saying. I think they're going to listen to dolphins and all kinds of animals. Look at the look on chipmunks' faces, and they're going to want to learn everything. No, I think it's going to treat us very well. Now, the good news about when narrow AI makes it goes out of control and could be doing humans wrong, humans can still defeat it. Because they're narrow, they're going to be vulnerable to something in security we call a side channel attack. When you're really strong in one thing, I picture Tom up the ground, he'd be like, the guy, Larry's a much better striker than me, but he knows nothing about ground fighting, or something like that. But generally, no, it's going to be secure across all 7 layers of the OSI chakra model. No, it's not going to be vulnerable to side channel attacks. Once 29 comes out, this AGI, humans are going to yield. That's very likely to happen. All right, now, what should you do? Should you bring an umbrella? You don't stay stuck in the past. You have to depend on what is it currently doing on? What's the weather right now? And sometimes people's roles force them into a bias. The CEO says, should we take this whole road? And, the COO was like, yeah, help me with schedule. I don't care about money. But, but really, you got to sit there and consider, well, wait a minute, what are we delivering? Are we late? What's the traffic like? Stuff like that. So is there a prettier ride? I do like the scenic route. Now, we're also at a point where humans have a bloody history over the last 5,000 years or so. And it's these competitions seem unnecessary in many cases, but other times you're like, well, if there was only enough water to go around for one of them, it's either me or you. In times of scarcity, maybe you got to do that. But if not, then it's probably much better to collaborate because, the mountain people have the best strawberries. The valley people have the best peanuts. They collaborate. They get peanut butter and jelly. And Peter Diamandis, one of my favorite living authors, and I like to call a dear friend, he points out quite quantitatively that we are getting better and more abundant in so many things. We can focus on this. Now, an information security person, we focus on what we call the CIA triad, 3 fundamental security goals. I need to protect confidentiality. Most people stop right there. That's not the most important thing. It's like hiring a guy. Hey, can you keep a secret? Yeah. All right. You're hired. Wait a second. Was the guy telling the truth on his resume? Is he going to show up tomorrow? And that's much more important. And, blockchain is really protecting our lives. It's not going to doctor history anymore. It's not making sure that only the Valley people know the secret recipe for their peanuts. No, it's to make sure that the peanuts actually came from the Valley people and it wasn't damaged in shipping. So, and the cloud is making everything available. So, yeah, we're moving into a very good time if we navigate this right. And as far as bias errors go, Janet Adams has a great talk on this. She's an AI researcher, and she's talking about credit applications for the Royal Bank of Scotland in the 90s, and humans awful. So do not, oh my gosh, they might be biased. Half of this planet is women. but how many policies and laws were written by women? Even the policies that affect women were written by men. Now, I'm very fortunate to have been raised by a natural general intelligence. My mother was very smart across multiple domains. She was also very, very ethical. She was very religious, but she married a Jewish guy and didn't push her Catholic too much, But she talked about it in her own mystical way. She did quote Jesus, and she would say her favorite is "Love thy neighbor as thyself." If you remember that, Larry, you don't even have to worry about the other 10 commandments. They'll just come naturally. But if you forget that, it'll be a struggle to keep one of them. And when I first started a business, I had a lemonade stand. She told me that how to implement the business. Don't ever sell a glass of lemonade that you yourself wouldn't drink, Larry. If it's not good enough for you, it's not good enough for anybody. She also told me about computers and how it's not the logic that the computer spits out. If you could blame the human stuff, there's a great movie if you haven't seen it, but garbage in, garbage out. Very, very wise in, be careful of what you wish for because you just might get it. And I keep thinking of these chat GPT stories like, I asked it a question and it gave me this answer, told me I should do that. And I was like, what was your question? Because I don't ask my GPS where to go. I tell it where I want to go. I make that choice. But I hope that it can give me some good suggestions on how to get there. She also told me, you got to learn from history or else you're forced to repeat it. You'll hit the cliff over and over again if you don't put it on the map. But she also let me know it's quite biased, that we just had his. We didn't store hers. And that it was very vulnerable, wasn't blockchain, rewritten by the winner of the last war. They doctored the lies. Now, quantitative data, I don't need to get your opinion. There's a quantity of four knobs on this Vulcan harp, Star Trek fans. But do you like the Vulcan harp? That's very subjective. So when we look for subjective data, and they are important, what's a good time to eat? That's it. I think we should, as a team, should come up with that. But if we only get one person's opinion, the king says, "I say we eat at 4 o'clock in the morning." It's like, that sucks for us. So when we're trying to negotiate what's good for the common good, we certainly want to get more opinions. And we can get opinions from people without them filling out forms. All those cameras that are there checking to see if we're speeding, I'm sure AGI will hack those and use them to see the look on our face. Rana Kayubi shows that so much of our communication, excuse me, is nonverbal and is just facial expressions, which you can get from most advanced mammals too. You get your dog, cat, tail position. Asa Raskin is showing how we're getting all kinds of animal conversations, whales and dolphins, and decoding it all. And I, again, as a Wireshark nerd, I'd love to be able to tap into these mycelium networks. I want a Wireshark interface that taps in, and I can listen to what the trees are telling each other. Maybe mitigate forest fires or other conditions that tend to them early. So now here's where I said the biggest risk: the compliance. Compliant to who? Compliant to the Vatican? It's got to be the common good. The problem, conservation of matter, that's a law. That applies to all matter without bias, men and women. But men can vote, women can't. That's a policy. And the policies and policy enforcement has been very biased. The richest company ever on the stock exchange, Dutch East India Tea Company, made tremendous profits. It was quite legal to the people in Europe, to their investors, that they kill all the members of the Bandus Islands to corner the nutmeg market. Not exactly the common good. And the British East India Tea Company took over. It wasn't the British government. They're the ones that took over India and are responsible for as many as 60 million deaths by some estimates. Now, why do we update these things? Because these technologies save lives, like Lloyd's taught us. Many people are familiar with the Titanic, that 1,500 people died, but did you know that 700 lived that wouldn't have lived a couple of years earlier? Marconi had just patented radio for commercial use in 1909. And because of that, this young Harold Bride was able to decipher. Not everybody was using Morse code either, but he was able to get some things and figure out a way and communicate and get some help. And uh, it became, hey, we got to do this from now on. And again, some people don't want to deal with the new data. It's like, oh, you're playing God. My mother had no problem with science. She was very, very religious, but she didn't have a problem with reconciling scientific or flaws in the Bible and going 6,000 years old. That no, I'm pretty sure that that part isn't quite accurate. She just boiled down the meaning. Um, uh, Michael Faraday here, it was a very religious person, but he didn't see things as it's science versus God. To him, science was how God works. So it's a cognitive flaw in some people that science is goes head to head against religion. I don't, the matter conservation law. You can still have an immortal soul. I don't have a problem with that. Uh, the age governance today, too, kind of like the Vatican, I don't think is going to have an easy time understanding this. So this is the compliant problem. Now I'm in the United States, arguably one of the most democratic countries in the world. Still representative democracy. I have representatives that represent me because when the system was set up, it was over HorseNet, and horses don't communicate as fast as our high-speed networks today. So I had to vote on people who then represented my issue. Now you can vote on issues, and I don't think AGI is going to ask the representative government if they mind taking over. And I worry that these things are where things are going to get really hairy. Imagine how the Taliban's going to feel, when they're told, nah, you don't get to decide what's right for women. So I really think the key in alignment is to bring us all together. It's not left versus right, that the COO and the CFO shouldn't fight. I'm very grateful to the AIs at YouTube for suggesting I check out some videos by this gentleman. Sadhguru, to me, is one of the most level-headed AI guys, and he's not an AI guy, he's a mystic, but he certainly gets it. And he talks at great length, like I said, the matter conservation law, energy, there's like 5 conservation laws. You want to have an immortal soul? It makes sense to me. Just conservation. But when you tell people do it my way, or at the end of the death, we're gonna go to a party where all the good people go, and you're not allowed to go. It's just not going to work anymore. He argues it already has been lost on the generation of children today. So this is the biggest issue, and I think really the best thing you can do is to align yourself with the current data. So the good news is AGI will probably not kill us all. But anybody trying to kill it, I think, is going to run into a brick wall. So, yeah, best safeguard, get aligned. I hope this helps people.